Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Chris, and this is the second installment of an average gamer's guide to Total War Rome 2. Now, today we're going to be looking at agents, the 3 recruitable agents you can get in the game. We have the Dignitary, the Champion, and the Spy. Now, first and foremost, depending on what faction you are, they might be named something different. So, for mine, my Dignitary is named the Noble. I have a Hero for my Champion, and I have Your Eyes of the King for my Spy. So again, if they're named something different, don't freak out, but they are basically serve the same function, they have the same abilities, so it doesn't matter. So we're going to go ahead and touch on how you recruit them first. So once you get the appropriate technology research and the appropriate building to built, you go ahead and you can click on any of your buildings and click Recruit Agent, just like you would to raise forces. And you can see right here it says Recruit Spy, Recruit Dignitary, or Recruit Champion. And you can see here as well that each one has different agent effects. I believe they're completely random, but based on the individual agent themselves. They obviously cost a significant amount of money to use or to get, and that's pretty much all you have to know about when you recruit them. The only other thing to note is that the way you can get multiple ones is if you go and increase your Imperium, which you get by conquering and becoming more of a power. You can see it also helps you increase your armies and your fleets, but your dignitary, spies, and champions also get increased by it as well. So let's go ahead and go over the similarities for the 3 guys right now. The first set of similarities, because there's 2 sets of similarities, is that there are 14 abilities for each agent. Now, there's 3 of them, 3 abilities, that have the exact same name. All the other ones are named something different, even if they have the same effect, which I'll go over next. But the first ones that share the same name are Persuasion, which uses authority, Temptation, which uses cunning, and Coercion, which uses zeal. Now, all of these are used to gain characters, to bring the other agents of the other factions to your side. It doesn't work on generals, and it doesn't work on admirals, okay? So this is specifically for if you're trying to use one of your dignitaries, dignitary champions or spies to try to get one of their dignitary champions or spies. That's the only time that you can use it, okay? And again, those are Persuasion, uses authority, Temptation, uses cunning, and Coercion uses zeal. So those are complete similarities. Now the other set of similarities, they have different names, okay? But they do the exact same thing, and they all utilize one of the 3 attributes as well, okay? So when you go ahead and you look at the dignitary right here, he has a way of killing characters, and his way of killing characters is to hire assassins. That uses his authority. He could use provocation, which uses his cunning, or he can use betrayal, which uses zeal. When you go ahead and you look at the champion, he uses single combat for his authority. He uses marksmanship for his cunning, and he uses slaughter for his zeal. Again, these are the exact same abilities. They all are doing the exact same thing of trying to kill whatever target character this is, but they're just using different attributes, and they have different names. And the last one is for the spy, and he goes ahead and he hires assassins. Or sorry, he solicits traitors, which uses authority. He uses poison for cunning, and he uses betrayal with zeal. So again, as you notice, they have all 3 attributes. So if you're looking to convert characters or kill characters, it doesn't matter what their strong suit is. They're always going to have some kind of focus in one of the others. So that is something that all of them can do equally well. When you look at their stats, which are located underneath their portrait, you can see exactly what they're going to be good at. So when you're trying to convert or kill, you don't have to worry, because they're all going to have some kind of decently good chance in one of those categories. Now we're going to go ahead and look over next at each individual one. So let's go ahead and look at the dignitary next. Alright, ladies and gentlemen, so this is the dignitary. So I'm going to go ahead and split up everything for these different agents, all of their abilities, into 3 different categories. I'm going to split them into combat, manipulation, and administration. So combat, I categorize that as anything that deals with a single character, so general, admiral, or any of the agents. Manipulation, I'm going to categorize that as something that affects either whole armies or provinces, or just armies or provinces. And then administration is going to be something that is a little bit more just like buffs and debuffs, and it typically just has to do with provinces themselves. Okay, so with all that being said, for the combat category, the dignitaries has already been mentioned. So they can attempt to kill, or they can attempt to convert enemy agents. So this is something we just talked about in the first section. So in manipulation, though, this is where the dignitary's strong suit is. So one of its abilities is to undermine authority. So when the dignitary undermines authority, he uses his trait of authority, and what this does, this lowers attack and defense of the general and its army, reduces its zone of influence. Okay. There's mislead command. This is also used on armies themselves. This uses the attribute of zeal, and it debuffs the general's cunning, adds to his ability timers, and limits the campaign line of sight. The third one that we have that affects armies is threat of destruction. And this also uses the attribute of zeal. It lowers the morale of the general's unit, its attack, damage, and its charge. So those are the manipulation ones that affect armies. There's 3 of them that affect specifically provinces. So the first one is insight unrest. Unsight unrest, but it's insight unrest, and it uses the attribute of authority. It lowers public unrest per turn, increases public unrest per turn, and it says it needs to be used in the province capital. So I'm not sure if you can use this in any settlement, but it says that you put it in to the province capital, and you trigger it, and per turn it'll slowly lower the public order in that until they finally rebel, unless they do something to counter it. But that's what it says. He slowly sits there and reduces their public order. The next one is cultural propaganda. This one uses the attribute of zeal, and this one lowers the ruling culture in a province and increases your culture. So I haven't tried this out on my own culture to see if somehow it backfires, and if I'm Hellenistic, he'll get rid of Hellenistic culture and put in some random culture. I'm assuming they won't allow you to do that, and instead it'll just work to get rid of whatever the other culture is that is competing with yours within that province. And so then the last one is to buy off merchants. Now the specific thing about this is this one affects specific settlements. So I highly encourage you to use this on whatever settlements have wine or marble or glass or whatever these extra bonus resources are, because this is where they're going to get the most effect. But it's buy off merchants. It uses the attribute of cunning, and it reduces the trade in a specific settlement. So obviously this affects the entire province's income, but it's just for that specific settlement. Alright, so the third category we have is administration, and we have 3 abilities here. So we have military administration, and this uses his attribute of authority. Now this is where you put them into an army or a fleet, and he will increase their campaign zone of control, which is that little red box that you see, like that comes over around cities. The same thing happens for admirals and generals. He increases their attack and defense, lowers their upkeep, and then lowers the chance of subterfuge against them. Then we have civil administration. This also uses the attribute of authority. And this increases public order within your friendly territory, reduces construction costs, and of course lowers the chance of subterfuge. Now the only administration one that the dignitary has is one called corruption. This also uses authority, so all 3 administration use the attribute of authority, but this one is used on the enemy province. So it says that if he is in the province, now this is how it's described, I'm not saying that this is how it's used, but if he is in the province, then he will increase corruption, thusly taking away from their income, lowers public order, and it'll increase their construction costs. So I don't know if this is something that has to be specifically used, or if it's just within the province themselves. Now the traits that are for the Dignitary, if you want to, I'm breaking them down based on how many use authority, how many use cunning, and how many use zeal. So the traits for the Dignitary that use authority, there's 6 of them, there's 3 that use cunning, and there's 5 that use zeal. So that is a quick overview. So if you're just looking for something that is probably good at a little bit of everything, I guess you can go for like authority and zeal, because cunning, you know, those two, there's 2 zeal, or sorry, that's 2 cunning that are just in their combat, to kill a character or to gain a character. So you really don't need to worry about it. The only other time that cunning is used is to buy off merchants. So, I mean, there's really no point, because there's only 3 attributes, and if you're focused on the other 2, then it doesn't matter. So, but next up, we're going to go ahead and we're going to look at the champion. Alright, ladies and gentlemen, so this is the champion, and he is going to also be broken down in combat, manipulation, and administration. So we've already gone over his specific combat stuff, but that doesn't mean he has anything else that can damage units. It's just those are only specific to individual characters. So when we go into manipulation, he has 6 of them that he can use. He can rally slaves, which uses authority, and that incites a slave revolt by lowering public order. And it says that it persists over multiple turns. So I believe what it does is it increases the general contributing factor of slaves. It increases how much the slaves are pissed off, and basically will slowly lower the settlement, depending on how much positive factors they have for the settlement, to where slaves will eventually revolt. The next thing that he can do is he can raid, and this uses his cunning. And raid does minor damage to all buildings in target settlement. Okay, so it does minor damage to all the buildings in a target settlement. I don't know if this can actually destroy buildings if they're low enough, but it definitely does damage to all of them. Now, the third thing he can do is he can assault the town watch. Now, this uses his zeal. And this does, what he does is he single targets 1 garrison unit and does significant damage to it. And that's everything that he can do specifically to provinces. So what he can do to armies is he can use show of force, and that this uses his authority. He is one annoying little guy, don't you think? Shut up. Okay, good. He uses so he can use show of force. And show of force uses his authority attribute, and this lowers the morale and the charge for the army that he is targeted. And he can also use his ability of harass, which uses cunning, and this debuffs melee damage and defense and the fire rate for the general in the army. It only affects the general in the army. And then he can use assault patrol, which uses his zeal attribute, and this significantly damages 1 unit in the army. So it's much like assault town watch, except for this is within the army. And then again, he has 3 abilities within the administration tree, as I like to call it. And under administration, he has military training. Now, military training uses zeal, and this increases the experience of all units in the army, increases the general's morale, attack, and charge, increases the army's action points, and profits from raiding, and also protects them from I think it's authoritarian subterfuge. So this is definitely a nice big boost, whether he's going into combat with you or just using him to help get across the map. Because you also have to remember that those increases into action points, if you use forced march, will still be doubled. The next thing that he can do is he can use military fervor. Now this is on friendly provinces, and this also uses the attribute of zeal. Now this increases public order and reduces recruitment costs, and then also protects against authoritarian subterfuge actions by enemy agents. Now the last thing that he can do is guerrilla activity, and this one is used on enemies, and it uses the attribute of zeal. Now this is just like corruption on the Dignitary. It describes it as him being in the region, and it's so it just seems like if he's in the region, it will do this to the specific area, and it lowers public order and increases the recruitment costs within that province. So again, going over, we're looking at the total attributes for the champion. His attributes are 4 authority, 4 cunning, and 7 zeal. So it really does seem like if you want a pretty good a pretty good champion, you should just focus on zeal for the most part, because again, authority and cunning, two of those are used in trying to kill or convert enemy characters. So that basically means that within manipulation and administration sections that I broke it down into, there are two that use authority and two that use cunning, but all of administration is zeal. So you basically have two, and then there's four of them in manipulation that, two of them in manipulation that use zeal. So for the most part, if you're just going for a general way, go for zeal, and you probably have a pretty decent champion. All right, so the next step, we're going to go ahead and finish up with the spy. Alright, so this is the spy. Now the spy, we've already talked about all their specific combat that they can do to specific units, but when we talk about manipulation, first I'm going to talk about 3 that can affect armies, and then we're going to talk about 3 that affect provinces. So the first 3 abilities under what I call manipulation that they can do to armies is, one of them is intercept orders. Now this uses the attribute of authority, and this shows any hidden units in an army. The next one is poison provisions, and this uses cunning, and this does damage to all the units in the army. And I can attest this is fairly useful. The next one is wreck baggage train, and this uses zeal. Now this takes away any bonus armor or weapons. So if they have increased armor or weapons from, say, a blacksmith or weaponsmith or anything like that, then it'll automatically take them away. I believe it only lasts for 1 turn, but I could be wrong about that. The next 3 work on provinces, and the first one is promote disorder. Now this one uses the attribute of authority, and this increases the decreases public order. This one I can personally attest to real quick. I used it on this province here, or this settlement here. I just kept spamming incite unrest or promote disorder over here, and he eventually got them to rebel. The rebellers pushed back the client state of the Seleucid Empire, and so the rebels end up owning it, and I just came in and attacked it. It's a very good strategy if you decide to try to take a settlement, but you don't want to go to war with the people who actually own it. The next one is he can poison wells. This one is also fantastic. If you're trying to lower the garrison in something you're going to attack in a couple turns, man, does this work well. I had about 12 units that were in the province capital. Actually, it was this one here before I was about to take it, and my awesome little spy here poisoned it for probably about 4 turns, and those 12 units, by the time my army got there to come attack it, were at a grand total of, I think it was like 163 guys. So over time, totally massacres entire garrisons. So very good for softening it up, and that uses the attribute of cunning. And so then the last one for manipulation is commit arson. Now this damages one building significantly within the province or the selected settlement. And what's nice about this is that if you damage harbors with commit arson, then it will grant attrition to the enemies that are being besieged. So if you don't have a navy, or your navy's been beaten back, and you still want to get attrition on them, then you can use commit arson on their harbor, and if it succeeds, then they will have attrition because they won't be able to get any of the stuff they need. The next one up is military intelligence, and this is under administration. This uses cunning, and this reduces the cooldowns on all of the generals' abilities, increases their campaign map line of sight, and increases the army's ambush chances. So this is something that you put the spy into an army, and those are the benefits he gives them. The next one is counterintelligence, and this is what you use in a friendly province. You actually select it down here, counterintelligence, and you can detect enemies in your region if they're deployed, and I believe it also helps with it helps from protecting from against cunning agent actions. And then the last one is intelligence, and this is when he goes into enemy provinces, and it reduces the military repression in that province, and reduces their tax income, and it helps spot hidden enemies within the enemy province. So that's going to be all of the abilities that you can use for the spy. And again, their traits are broken down to authority, they use 4, cunning, they use 6, and zeal, they use 4. It should be noted that 3 of the cunning are in the administration. So if you plan on using them as a buff bot, then go for cunning, because 2 of the other ones are in combat. So again, then those are the ones that can be used no matter what. There's always going to be no matter. So if, like my guy, he has 6 cunning, so then obviously I'm going to be using poison to try to kill characters, or temptation to try to bring them in. So there's always going to be a positive attribute for any of those 2 things for trying to manipulate. So I'd probably suggest that you just either go split for authority or zeal, or just focus on one or the other, depending on if you're trying to manipulate their armies or manipulate their provinces. So that's going to go ahead and end the breakdown. I really hope you guys appreciated the information in this video. It took me quite a while to make sure I got it all correct and got it all together. If you did, please like and subscribe. It takes a couple hours out of my free time to do this stuff, and I really hope you guys appreciate it. I know I enjoy putting it all together. So, but until then, my name is Chris, and I'll see you guys next time.